Actual Asexuality by an Actual Asexual. My name is Mag Piper, and I will be your host as always. Today I was going to talk about Freud, but then I actually read through some of his ideas, and they made me angry and a little grossed out, so we're not going to go there. Like, what the heck, Freud? Just look up polymorphous perversity, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Or don't, because it's gross. I've known several 5-year-olds in my life, and as far as I'm aware, they're thinking about pirates, not sex. Instead, we'll visit a phrase I've heard a few times. Humans need sex to live. Whoa there, hold your horses, friend. I've been on this earth for over 2 decades, and I've never had sex. Have I been a ghost all this time? Geez, I could have been haunting my enemies for as long as I've been alive. Or, well, dead? Anyways, that sounds a lot cooler than just going back and forth to work every day. Sign me up for a sexless eternity in limbo. Wait, has my mother been dead this whole time, too? My father passed in 1998. It's been 20-odd years since my mother had any sort of sexual congress. Not because she's asexual, just because Dad was it for her. Have I been living with a ghost all this time? Man, my childhood was cooler than I thought. On another note, how long can humans go without sex before they die from the lack of it? I want to know just how much longer I've got before I need to start on my bucket list. This is a very serious question. Should I contact Make-A-Wish? Life is not defined by how much whoopee we make. Sure, paddling up Coochie Creek is enjoyable for many, but it's a secondary or even tertiary facet of life. Eating and sleeping are far more important, and generally less slimy. According to a global survey conducted by Reebok and Censuswide in 2016, the average adult spends less than 1% of their life having sex. In what universe does 0.45% of our lives give us what we need to live? There are even a few articles that infer that over 10,000 people in America die whilst Barney mugging. I couldn't for the life of me find any sources for those, so here's hoping I'm not giving incorrect information. As a side note, there are over 400 euphemisms for sex in the English lexicon. I have to say, forbidden polka is probably my favorite. Why polka of all traditional dances? Why not waltz or hula? Definitely something to think about. Let's go back to dying without sex, which is not a thing. Think about the holy men and women of the past, and present I suppose, who choose to abstain from sex entirely as a way to worship their gods. They didn't die of celibacy. Some of them may have died of tuberculosis, but not celibacy. Side note, celibacy and asexuality are different things. Celibacy is choosing not to have sex as a sacrifice to a deity. Asexuality is not. That's not to say asexuals don't have sex. Some of us do. The only qualifier for being asexual is not experiencing sexual attraction. Sexual attraction and sex drive are two different things, you know? I was going to use the word libido, but then I googled it and Wikipedia linked it to Freud and his gross fascination with children in their sex lives, so. Some asexuals choose to have sex with a romantic partner for the sake of their partner. They might even experience something like genital arousal, just not subjective arousal. The body is interested, but the mind sure as heck isn't. They may even engage in self-stimulation, bringing themselves pleasure without involving a second party, just because they enjoy the feeling. That's why there are a couple of ways to describe an asexual's relationship with sex. Sex positive, sex neutral, and sex repulsed. You probably get the gist just from the names, but I'll keep going. Sex positive aces are cool with sex. They enjoy it or even seek it out. That does not make them any less asexual. Remember, sexual attraction and sex drive are not equal. Sex-neutral aces neither like nor dislike the act of having sex. They may indulge in it for their partner, but it's really not their bowl of spaghetti, or basket of apples, or whatever it is you neither like nor dislike. I'm not saying I'm neutral about either spaghetti or apples. I love spaghetti, and apples are pretty rad. I might be neutral about eggs. Okay in some things, but not something I'd seek out. Unless we're talking, say, Cadbury eggs. This podcast isn't sponsored, I swear. Sex-repulsed aces do not like sex. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Buts. None of those either. No buts, no... I'm not going to finish that sentence. They do not like sex. End of story. Quick note. If your partner says no to sex for any reason, that's it. Period. No means no, friend. In reverse, if your significant other is pressuring you to have sex with them and you have said no, get thee gone. Don't let them make you do anything you don't want to do. Their happiness is not dependent on how much sex they have. Anyways, let's talk about some of the other identities on the asexual spectrum. Asexual is the most well-known, as far as I'm aware, and we've been over the definition before, but an asexual doesn't experience sexual attraction. Asexuality is the general umbrella term for all the following sexualities, though, so I had to put it on the list. Asexuals are awesome and valid, and I love them. Gray asexual is the next level of the umbrella, per se. People who identify as a gray ace might be people who don't normally experience sexual attraction but do sometimes, or people who experience sexual attraction but have a really low sex drive, or people who like and seek out intercourse but under extremely limited or specific circumstances. Now, that's not the entire definition of gray aces, but it's got the main points. Gray aces are also awesome and valid. I love them too. The first identity under the proverbial umbrella is demisexual. Demisexuals don't experience sexual attraction until they've formed a significant emotional bond with a person. Someone who is demi won't just go to a bar and find a partner to go home with. They've got to become close to their partner emotionally before sex even thinks about coming into the picture. Demisexuals are great and amazing. I love them. Next we have reciprosexuals. If I said that slowly, it's because I hadn't encountered the term before researching for this episode. Reciprosexuals are individuals who don't experience sexual attraction unless they know the object of said attraction is attracted to them first. That might not have made sense. It's like an if-then code in a computer. The code goes something like, if so-and-so is attracted to you, then you might experience attraction to them. The condition for attraction is that the other person is attracted. I don't understand it, but that doesn't make reciprosexuals any less awesome or valid. If you're reciprosexual and you're listening, let me know if I got anything wrong. I love you! A coisexual is someone who experiences sexual attraction, but doesn't want it reciprocated. In fact, their attraction might even diminish or wane if they find out the object of said attraction feels the same way. Diminish and wane are synonyms, but I couldn't decide which one to use, so I used both. Acoisexuals are amazing! You rock! I love you! Last but not least, we've got aceflux. People who identify as aceflux kind of fluctuate between things on the asexual spectrum and things not on the asexual spectrum. I think it's similar to my relationship with malted milk balls. Some days I can eat a lot of them, some days I can eat one or two, and other days I don't even want to see them. You might think that aceflux people aren't valid, but you'd be wrong. They're awesome and I love them. I said aceflux was last, but I lied because I just found another list with more terms on it. I love lists with terms on them. Aspike is next, because that's fun to say. People who ID as aspike are people who don't normally experience sexual attraction, but occasionally feel intense sexual feelings for a short amount of time. Also, their flag is badass, and y'all should look it up. Aspikes are fantastic, and I love them. And then we have phrasexual, which is pretty much the opposite of demisexual. Phrasexuals can experience sexual attraction until they form an emotional bond with someone, at which point their attraction goes away. While I don't quite get the concept, you go phrasexuals, do your thing, you're rad, and I love you. There are a bunch of microlabels too, but we'll get into those next time, mainly because they're harder to pronounce. Anyways, thanks for listening. Just to remind you, this podcast is a personal project. I'm doing it because it's fun. Unfortunately, fun things don't always pay the bills, so it would be great if you could buy me a coffee. The link for that is in the description, as well as my Twitter bio. You can find me on Twitter at WeNeedSpacePod, or email me at weneedspace.podcast@gmail.com. The music I used is Mirror Mirror by Diamond Ortiz. Big thanks to my wonderful editor, and thanks again to you, the listener. We Need Space is produced every other Monday, so tune in next time. Peace out.